Hey, good morning, 8th grade. I just want to recap what we learned last week in the last few videos. We were talking about this right here is called a system of equations because there are two of them. Let me make sure my sound is working. Okay, there's two of them. And the way we talked about solving a system of equations was that you had to take both of these equations and if you graph them both, so for example, the purple one is going to look a little like this. If you graph that one, and then the orange one is going to look, it's going to start down lower and it's going to be steeper. And so it'll maybe look something like this. Right? So when we graphed two different lines, we saw, oh, okay, the point where they both cross, that's the point we want to find. That is the solution. And so last week we graphed a couple of these, and we found that point in the middle. Or you went on Desmos.com. Let me write that down. Or you went on Desmos.com, because Desmos.com can do this graphing for you. All you have to do is type these little guys in, and you will get the lines right away. And if you get the lines right away, you can click that point and you'll find it. I think in this case, the point is 2, 0, I believe. So that's what we're looking at when we graph a system of equations. So if you haven't done that assignment yet, there's still time. In fact, I'm happy to extend the deadline. I want you guys to be doing this with us, but I'd rather people be doing it at all. Go check out the videos if you haven't checked them out yet. Okay? I always forget to change this part. So it's not 7th grade math, it's 8th grade math, everybody. 8th grade math. So last week, that's what we talked about. This method of solving a system is called graphing. So I'm going to say solving systems by graphing. You graph both lines and you see, hey, where is that point of intersection? And it's right there. Okay? Today we're going to be talking about two other ways. This is called a graphic way of solving it. Today we're going to talk about two algebraic ways of solving a system. All right? So usually I kind of depends what order I want to do this in, but let's just do the assignment that's already assigned, and we'll do that one first. So this first method, usually this is the method that's taught second, but I'll teach it now. Elimination. This is how this one's going to work. As a matter of fact, let me just jump right into the assignment so I can show you. So solving systems of equations with elimination. So let me show you a problem and then we'll do it. Okay, so we got this going on. Okay, very cool. So I am going to, can I enlarge this problem? Oh yeah, awesome. So solving systems of equations by elimination. So here is what we're going to do. We're going to move me out of the way, and then we are going to write down these equations. So please do this with me. You're going to do negative 2x plus 15y equals negative 24. Whoops. And then positive 2x plus 9y equals 24. So check this out. These two are two different equations. They are two different lines, but together they make a system of equations, right? I'm going to show you a little trick. When you graph these two lines and they cross and they meet at a point, that means that at that point, so let me just draw like one line going this way, one line going up, and at this little center point that they both have, they're the same. We could be talking about either line because it's both lines are crossing through that point. Okay, so I'm going to show you a real quick trick. To do solving systems by elimination, step one is you need to have two x variables or two y variables that are exact opposites. So let's see what we mean by that. So if we look at the x's of the equations, we have negative 2x and we have positive 2x, so those are opposites. And these are not opposites, 15y and 9y. And negative 24 and 24, those are actually opposites as well. So the key to doing elimination is if you have a system of equations that has opposites, this is going to be really easy, because watch what happens. After you draw these equations, or you write them, I mean, put a line underneath it, and I want you to add up both equations. All right, add up both equations, please. I have a very dry wrist. If you see me like looking down, it's because I'm wondering why my wrist is so dry. It's like, oh, it's very dry. Okay, so these are opposites, so let's add them. Negative 2x plus 2x, that equals 0. 15y plus 9y, that equals 24y. And negative 24 plus 24 equals 0. So we have the equation 24y equals 0, which really means if you divide both sides by 24, right? If you divide both sides by 24, you'll get y equals 0. So we have found out one of the variables. All right? You see how easy that was? For the first thing we did was, if there's opposite numbers, when you add them together, they become 0, meaning they disappear. And that makes life really easy for us, because look how easy it was to solve the rest of it. So the point is this. We want to have opposites at the beginning of the equation so that we could find out the variables. So y equals 0, and let's find out what does x equal. So I'm going to take this y equals 0, and I am going to input that answer into my y variable, because y equals 0. Okay, so let's see what happens. 9 times 0, this is 0 now, because y equals 0. So 9 times 0 is 0. And so we are left with 2x equals 24. Well, if 2 times x equals 24, we know that x equals 12. Okay? If you do that with, you see how I did that with the second equation? You could also take this y equals 0. You could also put it here, in which case you would get negative 2x equals negative 24. So you would still get the answer of x equals 12. Okay? And so solving systems of equations kind of goes like this. All you have to do is the ultimate most important step is that before you start adding the two equations together, you have to have opposite terms. Okay? So we found out both answers. Let's go ahead and check it. And we got it right. Let me check another thing too, because okay, perfect. Let me turn up my volume a little bit. Okay. Next question. So if you need to write this down, please write this down. In fact, not if you need to. You need to write this down. So please pause the video, do whatever you need to. Please catch up. And then unpause the video. Okay? Let's try another elimination problem. So in this problem, we have negative 5y plus 8x. Wow, that's kind of weird that they put it in that order, but that's okay. And then we have positive 5y plus 2x equals 58. Okay, so first things first. In our system of equations, do we have opposite y's, opposite x's? Do we have opposite y's or opposite x's? If you notice, we have opposite y's. So once we have opposite y's, we can begin to add both lines, okay? Watch what happens. If I add negative 5y plus 5y, that equals 0. So this is what I like to do. Whenever you have opposites on your equations and you add them together, just cross them out. They cancel out. Now let's keep adding. 8x plus 2x is 10x equals negative 18 plus 58. Well, 58 minus 18, that's 40. So we are left with 10x equals 40. And if you divide each side by 10, which you should hopefully know how to do on these now, if you divide each side by 10, you get x equals 4. Okay, x equals 4, which, wait, how can I do this? Can I move the camera a little bit closer here? Yeah, I can. There we go. X equals 4, which is good and everything. X equals 4, but we still need to find out what does y equal, okay? So here's what I'm going to do. X equals 4, so I'm going to, actually I should have not, I'm going to uncross this out only because I'm going to use the equation. Again, we have to use the equation at the end, so maybe I should write 0 instead, right? Okay, let's go ahead and put x equals 4 into our equation. So I am actually going to do that over the word elimination. So let me do that real quick. Let's erase the word elimination, and let's put the value x equals 4 into my first equation, okay? So we have negative 5y plus 8 times 4 equals negative 18. And, oh wow, so let's go ahead and try this. So I'm going to go ahead and hopefully you have written down the system of equations and the little step to get the first variable, x equals 4. In fact, I'm going to write this down off to the side, x equals 4, so that way we don't forget it. Oh, whoops, let's move that. Wow, that does not look like a 4. X equals 4. There we go. So we found out the answer to the first variable, which is x equals 4. And then we went ahead and took that one answer and we put it into the original equation. So now let's keep doing math. 8 times 4, 32, and then bring everything else down. Okay, so I brought everything down. Let's go ahead and solve for y, because y is the variable we want to know. So you need to get rid of this number and this number. So to get rid of plus 32, subtract 32, please, on each side. At this point, we're just solving just like we used to solve, okay? 32 minus 32 gets crossed out. So you bring down negative 5y equals negative 18 plus negative 32. If you have a calculator at home, please do that. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, guys. No, I'm just kidding. This is completely right. But please double check it because I urge you guys to do your own work, all right? You get negative 50. And then to get rid of this negative 5 coefficient, we divide by negative 5. Remember, dividing is always like the last step you do. So you get y equals negative 50 divided by negative 5. That's going to be a positive 10. So we are left with x equals 4. Y equals 10. X equals 4. Y equals 10. Okay? So, just to recap, you need to have opposites in your original equations before you can start adding them. So let's try this one. This is another elimination problem. So we have negative 3y plus 5x equals 26. And then the other equation is minus 2y minus 5x equals negative 16. And then we put a little one of these around our system of linear equations. And do we have opposite y's? Negative 3, negative 2, those are not opposites. Do we have opposite x's? We have plus 5 and minus 5. Those are opposites. And so, hold on, let me move this real quick. Is it possible to do this? There we go. There we go. And then we have, so yeah, we have opposite x's. So once you have opposite any variable, you can go ahead and add everything. So negative 3y plus negative 2y. If you combine two negatives, negative 3 plus negative 2, that's going to get you an extra large negative because we are adding them. So you get negative 5y. Here you have plus 5x minus 5x. Those will be equaling 0. Okay? And then 26 plus negative 16, well, that's like subtracting. You just get 10. Okay? Final step to get y by itself is you divide by negative 5. divide by negative 5 on both sides. Let's see what we get. Negative 5y divided by negative 5, you are left with simply 1y equals, and then 10 divided by negative 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2, so this ought to be negative 2. Y equals negative 2. Okay, so I'm going to put a big box around that because we know one of the answers. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to write one of the original equations with the answer of negative 2. So let's try, I guess we should just try the first one, okay? So I am going to, hopefully you've copied down this work so far. Please make sure you've copied it. Pause it if you need to, because I am about to erase, all right? Erase, erase, erase. So far we have gotten the answer of one variable, which is y equals negative 2, right? Very nice. So I'm going to rewrite the original equation, negative 3y, but instead of the value just y, I'm going to put in parentheses negative 2. So negative 3 times negative 2, then we have plus 5x equals 26, and let's just solve the math, and this should be pretty easy. Negative 3 times negative 2, negative times a negative, well, we are multiplying, so that makes it a positive 6. Then we drop down everything else. And now we can begin solving this for x. How do we get rid of this 6 hanging out up here? So this number is the easiest to get rid of, plus 6. To get rid of plus 6, you have to do minus 6 from each side. Okay? What that will do is that will get rid of, this will 6 plus negative 6, that equals 0. So you just bring down 5x. On this side, 26 minus 6 would equal 20. And then we have 5x equals 20. So 5 times what equals 20? You probably could solve this one mentally, but still, please show the work. You get 1x equals 20 divided by 5. That's a simple 4. So do you see how I have two answers boxed up? And you see how I found the first one? The first one I found was because we had opposites right up here. So you see how these two were opposites? Because these two were opposites, we were able to make that equal 0, and so y, we were able to get the answer for y. Once we got the answer for y, we did some more math, and we took that value of y and substituted it in to the original equation. And then once you solve that equation, you get the answer of x. So you get both your answers here. X equals 4 and y equals negative 2. Then I'm going to hit the check button, and we are good. Next one. Oh, these were all pretty easy. These all had opposites in them. So let's try this one last time. Again, if you are ready, you could probably just finish up this one but on your own, but I'm here for everybody else who doesn't have it yet. 3x plus 8y equals 15. The second equation is 2x minus 8y, that's the opposite, plus 10. So we see that we have opposites already right here, the y's. So please put a line at the bottom and add everything that you have here. 3x plus 2x gets you 5x. 8y minus 8y equals 0. So I'm going to lightly cross that out because I'm going to use this equation later, so I don't want to like cross it out and forget about it. And then 15 plus 10 is 25. So now we have this very simple equation, 5x equals 25. You probably already know what x equals in this case. We get x equals 5. That's our first answer, okay? X equals 5. Now all we have to do is take this first answer and substitute it into one of these equations, all right? It will make life very easy. I always like to choose the first one. So I'm going to go ahead and erase everything but the first equation. and I'm even going to erase the little squiggly. Okay. X equals 5. So let's rewrite this equation, but now with the value x equals 5. Okay. So 3 times 5 equals 15. 15 plus 8y equals 15. Let's see what happens. If you take away 15, because you want to get y by itself, right? Isolate y. So if you take away 15 from each side, oh, whoops. Let's see what happens. I'm going to move my answer, x equals 5. I'm going to move that off to the side because that's the answer for x, but right now we're finding the answer for y, so I got to get this stuff out of the way. So 15 minus 15, cross that out, and then just bring down all the other answers. So 8y equals 15 minus 15 equals 0. 8 times y equals 0, meaning that y, if you divide both sides by 8, you still get 0. Y equals 0. So you get x equals 5, and then when you put x equals 5 into the equation, and you solve that new equation, you get y equals 0. It won't always be, one of the numbers will not always be 0. It could be a mix of two different numbers, but I think they're choosing some kind of easy ones for us right now. So let's go ahead and check x equals 5, y equals 0, and we are good. Hooray. Okay, so again, there's that's solving systems of equations by elimination. Let's kind of take a big step back, because the first way that we did, the first way that we did was by graphing. So if they gave you two equations to start with, you graph them, and the center point or the intersection point is the solution. This time we didn't even have to graph anything. We did an algebraic method, okay? So you need to practice this on your own to kind of get the hang of it. You need to write this on your own to get the hang of it. Do the problem with me. Otherwise, you know, it's not going to stick. I promise you that it's not going to stick if you don't write it down. So you have to write it down, please, 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 all right? I'm writing it down, all right? I got a dry wrist, and I could be doing anything else right now, just like you guys, but, you know, I'm writing it down because it's going to help me become a better teacher. It's going to help you become a better learner, okay? All right, we're at 22 minutes. Let me do our second assignment. So our second assignment was the Systems of Equations with Elimination Challenge. All right, so I'm pulling that up right now. And if you look at this, oh, there's a good one. So if you look at this system of equations, are there any opposites that are already made? I have to put lotion on my wrist after this because this is too much. Man, it is like scaly dry. Man, it like hurts. All right, so let's write down this system of equations real quick. We got minus 6y, or negative 6y, plus 11x equals negative 36. Next we got minus 4y plus 7x equals negative 24. So as you can see, we do not have opposites right now. These two are not opposites, these two are not opposites, and doesn't matter if these are opposites, but these two are not opposites either. Oh, ow. So we don't have opposites, but if we put a parentheses around each equation, we could turn these y's into opposites. Let me show you what I mean. Let me get a big piece of chalk first. Let me get like a purple piece. Here's how we do it. Can you think of a number that that 6 and 4 both go into? What's a number that 6 and 4 both go into? And I'm not saying what number goes into both of these, because I know a lot of people at home are saying, oh, 2. 2 is the number that goes into both of these. That's not what I'm asking. What I am asking is, what is a big number that both of these numbers go into? All right? And that number would be 12, okay? So we're going to turn these into opposites. We're going to make one of them into positive 12 and one of them into negative 12. Sound good? So let's Let's start with this one. We have a negative 6. I'm going to turn this negative 6y into positive 12y, okay? You're going to see how I'm going to do that. How can I'll tell you first. If I have a negative 6, how can I turn a negative 6 into a positive 12? Well, to do that, I'm going to multiply it by negative 2, okay? So I put a negative 2 outside of the parentheses. And then, so this one's going to be a positive 12x, okay? This bottom one, this negative 4, I want to turn this into negative 12 because I want it to be the opposite of this up here. So what's the opposite of negative? What's the opposite of positive 12? It would be negative 12. So I want to turn this negative 4 into negative 12. Well, what do you multiply by to turn this negative 4 into negative 12? You'd multiply by 3, okay? So watch what we're going to do. Once we use these numbers, we are going to have opposites. Let's see how that happens. Let's use distributive property. So multiply, multiply, multiply everything. Okay? Let's try it with the first equation. The first equation, negative 2 times negative 6y is 12y. Negative 2 times positive 11, that's going to be negative 22x. And then negative 2 times negative 36, that's going to equal positive 72. So we just changed up the whole equation. That top equation just became this equation. But watch what happens now. Let's do the distributive property down here. Is that light? That is light. I thought that was chalk for a second. 3 times negative 4y, that's negative 12y. 3 times 7x. 3 times 7x, that's going to be 21x. And then 3 times negative 24 is going to be negative 72. So both of our top equations, we have just multiplied them by these numbers on the side. And the reason we did that is because now, look, we have opposites. So now that we have opposites, it's just like the last lesson. Now you can begin adding these two lines and watch what happens. 12y plus negative 12y equals 0. So I'm just going to write a little light 0 there. I could cross them out. I just don't want to. It looks nicer this way, I think. Negative 22x plus 21x. That's still going to have you a negative 1x. And then 72 plus negative 72, that equals 0. Okay? So we have negative 1x equals 0. And I'm guessing you know what's going to happen next. If we divide by negative 1 on each side, we do end up getting just x equals 0. Okay? Put a big box around that. X equals 0. Now we're not done yet. We're not done yet because we still need to use this x equals 0 and we need to substitute it into one of the original equations. Okay? I'm going to substitute it into the first equation. So let me just erase that. Let me just make some room here. Okay? So here's our original equation. And I'm going to take this x equals 0 and put it into the equation. Okay? So let's see. Minus 6y plus 11 times 0 equals negative 36. Let's see how this works out. Well, 11 times 0, that just equals 0. So anytime something equals 0, you can just cross it out like it doesn't even exist. Now you're left with negative 6y equals negative 36. So let's do the same thing to both sides. How can I get rid of this negative 6 coefficient? We're going to divide by negative 6. Okay? And now I'm ready. Okay, I hope you have these written down, these opposites. We don't need them anymore, but I'm going to erase them now. So, whoops. Should use a shirt. Okay? So we got, once we do this to both sides right here, we're going to get 1y, or just y, equals negative 36 divided by negative 6. That equals a positive 6. So you are left with y equals 6. Do you see both these answers? Both those answers together are what's going to give us the answer to this system. So x equals 0, y equals 6. Check it. There you go. So on the challenge assignment, the only thing that's different is that you have to turn the equations into opposites. That's basically it. All right? You just have to turn something into you have to make sure that there's opposites in the equation. So let's try this one. We got 3y. Oh my goodness. Oh, and again, if you would rather solve this by graphing, like I know that, you know, you can solve this problem by doing elimination, what I'm doing, or you can just go to desmos.com and type in these equations and it will graph them automatically for you. If you do that and you find the intersection point, that will be the solution to your equation. I'm not going to stop you from doing that. All right, I know I'm teaching you elimination right now, but if you instead use this time to say, hey, I'd rather do this the easy way and graph them on desmos.com, then that's okay too, because you guys need to learn that too. So I don't, I really don't have a strong preference of which one you do right now. But that being said, I'm going to show you elimination because I need to show you, and also, you might like this better than graphing. So 3y plus 10x minus 54. As a matter of fact, should I do that? Should I show you guys how to do that? Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it, because I don't feel like turning this into opposites right now. I want to also show you how to do the graphing one. So 3y plus 10x minus 54 equals 0. Yeah. Dog, you're upsetting me right now. This is my friend's dog is whining right now. I'll take care of her in a sec. But let's do this. Let's go to desmos.com and type in both these equations, all right? So desmos.com, and then we're going to do 3y plus 10x minus 54 equals 0. 3y plus 10x minus 54 equals 0. So if you type in that equation, that's not even in standard form. That's like almost in standard form. But you see how if you type in that equation exactly, it'll graph it automatically for you. That's kind of cool. Let's do the second one. 5y minus 2x minus 34 equals 0. 5y minus 2x minus 34 equals 0. If you type both those in, you're going to see two lines pop up on Desmos. Okay? You see two of these lines. I hope you can see them. Can you see them? No, I might have to shrink down my blackboard. Those are the two lines, and in fact, I got to shrink this down a little bit so that you can see the equations I typed in. See, I typed them in on the side, right? I typed them in right in on the side, and as soon as I typed them in, they showed up on my graph. Go to this intersection point, hover over it, and then click it. If you click the intersection point, it's going to tell you the numbers of it. It says 3, 8. Okay? 3, 8, which means x equals 3, y equals 8. Okay? So if we go back to our systems of equations, x equals 3, y equals 8. We didn't have to do any math for that. Okay? I would like for you to use either this way. If you would prefer to use this way the whole time, it's going to be better than nothing. All right? You're going to get the answers that way. It's not the only way that exists, and you won't always be allowed to use a calculator like this one. So you kind of got to kind of weigh your options. Like, you won't always be able to do this, but it is very important that you learn how. when you are allowed. Okay? So let's hit check. That's good. Okay, this time I am going to turn this into opposites, okay? So let's not be lazy here. So let's start with the first one. The first one is 10y plus 7x equals 29. And the second equation is negative 5y minus 9x equals 2. Now, again, let's think about making opposites on these things. So we don't have opposites here. We don't have opposites in the x variables. But if you look at x, and if you look at y, and if you look at x, which one of these? How can I phrase this question? My question is, which one of these could we turn into opposites easier? And it might not be obvious to a lot of you at first, so if it is obvious to you, that's great. If not, then let me show you. Here we see positive 10y and negative 5y. We can take this bottom equation, and we can turn this negative 5y into the opposite of 10y. So first of all, what's the opposite of positive 10y? The opposite is negative 10y. So how do I turn this into negative 10y? It's already negative, so all I have to do is multiply by 2. If you multiply by 2, you will have opposites. So let's try it. Well, first I'm going to rewrite the first equation. The first equation is simply 10y plus 7x equals 29. That's the first one. Okay? The second equation is this one that I'm about to distribute on. 2 times negative 5y, that's negative 10y. 2 times negative 9x, that's still negative 18x. And then 2 times 2, that equals 4. So notice I took my original equations and I multiplied one of the equations by 2, and watch what that did. I doubled the bottom equation, and guess what we have now? Now we have opposites. Okay? So now that you have opposites, I want you to put a line underneath both those equations. And let's go ahead and try to solve the first variable, okay? Let's try to solve the first variable. Just add everything. 10y plus negative 10y, that's 0. Those cancel out. Then we have plus 7x minus 18x. If you do the math on that, 7 minus 18, that's going to be a very negative number. If you use your calculator or your mind, you will get negative 11x, I believe. Equals, let's add these two now. 29 plus 4, that's 33. That makes sense. And then to get, now we just need to solve for x. So how do we get rid of this negative 11 coefficient? Just like always, you're going to divide by negative 11 on each side. Oh, whoops. Divide by negative 11 on each side. And so I believe my answer will fit in this little rectangle over here. Negative 11x divided by negative 11, you are simply left with x, then equals, and then do this division. 33 divided by negative 11. Well, I know 33 divided by 11 is 3, but since it's negative, you put negative 3. Okay? So we have found one variable, one solution of one variable, but we need to find the solution of the other variable. So I am going to take this x equals negative 3, and I'm going to take that and substitute it in to, let me draw a clear arrow here because you can't really see it. I'm going to substitute it in to the value of x. Big line. I hope you can see that. I took that x value of negative 3, and I'm going to put it into the original equation. So I'm going to make some room. I'm going to erase some of my old work here. Now, again, if you're doing this in your notebook, which you should be, don't erase all your work. Like, I'm erasing because I don't have any room. Maybe I should use a notebook. I think I'm going to use a notebook next. But anyway, I'm going to take that x equals negative 3 and input it to the original equation. Okay? The good thing is that you can rewind the video so you can see exactly what I did. Okay? Let's input that value of negative 3 into the equation, yes? So let's rewrite the equation. 10y equals 7 times negative 3 equals 29. So let's do the math. Oh, why did I put equals? Whoops. Plus sign. Okay. 7 times negative 3, that's going to be negative 21. So if you bring down everything after you do the multiplication, you get this. You want to get y by itself, so you need to get rid of this number and this number. So how do we isolate y? Well, we need to get rid of this number first. How do you get rid of plus negative 21? You're going to, you could either take away negative 21 or just do the opposite of plus negative 21. The opposite of plus negative 21 is plus regular 21. That's kind of like an easier way to write it. So plus positive 21. If you do that to both sides of the equation, you will be left with 10y equals 29 plus 21. I believe that is 50. Okay? So 10y equals 50. So if you divide both sides by 10, you are left with, well, let's do that. If you divide both sides by 10, you get 10y divided by 10, that's just y, equals 50 divided by 10. You should hopefully know that. That is 5. So you have negative x equals negative 3, y equals 5. Always put a box around your final solutions. X equals negative 3, y equals 5. X equals negative 3, y equals 5. Go ahead and click check and keep going. Okay, and then we're at the final problem. So for this one, let's see, do I have a piece of paper handy? Do I have a notebook? I should. That's so odd that I wouldn't have a notebook. Yeah, I'll get a notebook later. I don't want to walk away. Final question. So we have a system of equations, and we are going to grow this real quick because you can barely see it. There you go. So we have minus 2x minus 7y equals 30. And then x plus 4y, 7x plus 4y equals 18. 7x plus 4y equals 18. Okay. If we look at the x's and the y's, we don't have opposites yet. And I know that 2 can't go into 7 and 4 can't go into 7. So I know that I'm going to have to take both equations and I'm going to have to do something, multiply both of them by something so that I can get opposites. So let's think about this for a second. I have a 2x and I have a negative 2x and I have a positive 7x. What numbers can 2 and 7 both go into? What big number can 2 and 7 both go into? The answer to that is 14. So I'm going to try to turn the negative 1, the negative 2x, I'm going to try to turn that into negative 14, and I'm going to try to turn this one into positive 14. This one's easy. 7x, how do I turn 7x into positive 14x? You just double it. You do times 2. And how do you turn negative 2x into the opposite, negative 14x? I'm just going to do times 7. Because if I do that, I will now get, I will now have opposites. So let's do the top one first. Let's distribute, and see what new equation we get. We get negative 14, negative 14x, then 7 times negative 7, that's positive 49y equals, and then 7 times 30, that's 210, because 7 times 3 is 21. Okay, we did the first equation. Second equation, 2 times 2, and then 2 times 2. Okay, double everything. 2 times 7x gets you 14x. 2 times 4y equals plus 8y. And 2 times 18 equals 36. And now we have turned our original equations into these. And now these have opposites. You see these two opposites right here? So now that we have opposites, now we can combine both equations. Okay? Let's add them, I mean. So negative 14 plus 14x cancels out. 49y plus 8y equals, if I am correct, that equals a positive 57y. Equals 210 plus 36, that's 246. So we have 57y equals 246. Now, even though the numbers are bigger than usual, again, just solve it the same way. How do you get rid of this times 57? You divide by 57, divide by 57, and I do believe that this will give us a whole number. Let's see, 246 divided by 57. You know what I did wrong? I found my mistake. What I did wrong was, I'm going to change something up right here, so hold up. So let me just erase this real quick, because we don't have to erase much. Just erase that bottom part. And then let's go back to the first equation. 7 times negative 2x is negative 14x. 7 times negative 7y, that's, I should have done minus 49y. Okay? So let's, now that that has been fixed, and I think all the rest of the math is correct, let's redo this calculation carefully. Negative 14x plus 14x, okay, so that was fine. Those cancel. The only thing that's going to be different is this. Negative 49y plus 8y. If you do that, I believe you will get negative 41y. Okay? Which is, yeah, negative 41y. And then on this side, you still get 246. So the only thing that changed was this y part. Okay? Now, the numbers look big, but if you divide by negative 41 on each side, now it looks like we will actually get an answer. Let's see. 246 divided by negative 41. 246 divided by negative 41. That does get you a whole number. That gets you a whole number, which I will put over here. Negative 41y divided by negative 41, that gets you 1y equals. When you divide this, you get negative 6. Okay? So you're going to take this y equals negative 6, and you're going to substitute it into one of the original equations. Okay? I am going to, I always like to, you can pick whichever equation you want to substitute this into, because they will both give you the same answer. I always like to pick the easier one, but sometimes both look about the same difficulty, so I'm just going to pick the first one. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and erase everything that's here in the middle. Hopefully you got it copied down, or you can pause the video or rewind and write down what you need to. So there's the original equation. The original equation didn't even have that 7, right? It was just this. And now let's substitute y equals negative 6 in here. So let's write everything down. Negative 2x minus 7 times negative 6 equals 30. So let's keep doing math. Negative 7 times negative 6, that equals positive 42. And so bring down everything. Okay. Let's start solving for x. How do I get x by itself? Well, you see these two numbers hanging out right here? We don't want those. So how do you get rid of plus 42? You subtract 42. And we are left with, these two are canceled because they're opposites. So you bring down this, negative 2x, and 30 minus 42, that's a little number minus a big number, gets you negative 12. Okay? let me erase this little bottom part of the last equation because I need room to do this equation here. Let's divide both sides by what? At home, you should see what the coefficient is. It is -2. And so we are left with x equals 12 divided by -2. That equals +6 because it's negative divided by negative. So we get x equals 6, y equals -6. Those are both of the answers. X equals 6, y equals -6. And go ahead and check it. Hooray. That's it. That's it. All right. Do these 2 assignments. If you haven't done the ones from before, please do those, and that's what's due. The due dates are posted on Khan Academy. I will probably extend the due date on some of these, but believe me, the sooner you turn it in or the sooner you're like messaging me for help or I see that you're actually doing it, the more credit this will be when we return to school, okay? All right. Thank you very much and have a great day. Stay safe.